Well, good afternoon. It's 5 o'clock and I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Saugeen Shores Committee of Adjustment. It's October the 16th, 2023. And our first order of business is our land acknowledgement, and Member Richard Beckett will read that today.
Thank you. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for the contributions they have made in both caring for the land and in shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation, which begins with each and every one of us. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning about Indigenous culture, to fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people, and we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing along with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Next is an acknowledgement of any pecuniary interest. You can make that now or at any time during the meeting. Seeing none, we'll move on to the adoption of our minutes from our September the 18th, 2023 meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder for those? Moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt, seconded by Member Beckett. Is there any discussion on those minutes? I have one comment. There is a reference in the item that relates to the sign variation, or it's minor variance related to signs that was there about the fence signs. And there's an indication that fence signs are prohibited. We also spoke about how our sign bylaw has some regulations concerning non-accessory signage too, because that was applicable in this situation too. So I would appreciate if the minutes reflected both of those elements at play for this particular item. Is there anything else? So we'll assume that Dana will just add something in about the second item about non-accessory signage and its relationship to the sign bylaw. So all those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. We have no additional business on the agenda for this evening, but we do have two public hearings for one is a minor variance application and one is a sign variance application. 6.1 is a minor variance application A-41. The name on the file is Denemy. Derek Seaman, the builder, is here. The address in question is 195 Saugeen Beach Road. I will now ask the planner to make the report.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thanks for that introduction. We're going to go over my report in front of you for the Denum minor variance, which is file A41. This minor variance requests relief from the rear yard setback of 7.5 meters to 4.5 meter setback. This would allow the proposed construction of a new single detached dwelling to be located closer to the rear yard and therefore providing more room on the property for the septic system in the front yard. It also has the effect of relocating from the existing dwelling, making the new dwelling further away from the shoreline of Lake Huron. The address is 195 Saugeen Beach Roads. This is in the Port Elgin settlement area, just south of the main part of the town site. The lands currently have a seasonal cottage with a detached garage, and as described in the report, they are proposing to construct a new permanent dwelling. The lands will continue to be partially serviced with municipal water, and a new septic system is proposed. You'll see an air photo on page 2 of my report, just kind of providing some context surrounding uses. You'll also see a site plan. For a full-size site plan, you can flip to the back page of my report. There's a larger version of this site plan. There's a photograph of the dwelling on page 4 of the report, the current dwelling. When looking at a minor variance, planners need to make sure that our recommendations align with the 4 tests for a minor variance as set out in Section 45 of the Planning Act. So I'll provide a brief overview of how this application aligns with the 4 tests in the Planning Act. But first, a couple of the main planning issues for this one. This is in an area with high potential for archaeological resources. So the applicants did submit a stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment. As a result of the stage 1 assessment, it was indicated that the property did have potential for the recovery of archaeological resources. So as a result of that stage 1 assessment, a stage 2 assessment was then completed. This didn't result in any documented findings of archaeological resources, and the property is considered to be free of archaeological concern with no further assessment required. Saugeen Ojibwe Nation has been provided with a copy of the archaeology assessment, and they have no further concerns at this time. There's also been a natural hazard study, a shoreline hazard study that was completed with the application to determine if the SVCA current default shoreline hazard could be reduced on the area for the new dwelling. A recommended development setback of at least 23 meters inshore from the 100-year flood level is recommended in the study compared to SVCA's default setback recommendation of 45 meters. Based on this, the completed studies as part of this application, the proposed dwelling will be located further back from the shoreline hazard than the existing dwelling. And SPCA has reviewed the study and has no further concerns. So moving on to the first test of under the Planning Act, under Section 45 for minor variances. Does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan? So the property is designated primary urban community in the county's official plan, and it's designated shoreline residential in the town's official plan. Both designations permit a wide range of residential dwellings, including infill and intensification residential development. Many of the other areas in the shoreline residential designation applies to low density, a string of development along the shoreline of Lake Huron in general. Many of the surrounding properties have also been used for a mix of seasonal and permanent full-time residential development. The objective of the policies are to provide for limited opportunities for low-density housing where it can be appropriately serviced. Portions of the subject lands located towards the lake and the hazard area are designated an environmental hazard, and there's no changes proposed to those sections of the of the property. The purpose of that designation is to identify lands in the town that are unsuitable for development. So this includes the dynamic beach hazard. As mentioned earlier, there was a shoreline hazard study submitted with the application, and the proposed development of the house will comply with the recommendations of that study. The development proposes a new low-density residential use that can be serviced appropriately while protecting the existing natural environment of Lake Huron. Therefore, it's our opinion that the application maintains the general intent and purpose of both the Bruce County and the Saugeen Shores official plans. Moving on to the second test. Does the minor variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The lands are zoned residential 1 with this exception 2, which permits a variety of low-density residential uses. The exception 2 applies to lands that are partially serviced in this general part of the Port Elgin settlement area. The R12 provision also contains an additional provision that requires that the lot be able to accommodate a septic system. So the application proposes a new single attached dwelling with a rear yard setback of 4.75 meters. This is not out of line with some of the surrounding setbacks in the general area. The reason for this is to permit the construction of the proposed septic system in the front yard while reducing the number of trees required to be removed. I would also note that the existing cottage currently encroaches into the shore road allowance, so the application also has the benefit of making sure that those encroachments are removed. The third test is the application desirable for the appropriate development of land? So in our report, you'll see that we've noted that the application permits a new single attached dwelling that's further in compliance than the current dwelling. Therefore, it's our opinion that the application is appropriate and desirable for the development of the land. The last test is the application minor in nature. As mentioned, the new location of the dwelling would have a setback similar to some of the other nearby dwellings and accessory buildings for other shoreline residential properties. It's not an unreasonable request, and it's our opinion that it is minor given the benefits that the application has in terms of moving the dwelling further away from the lake and avoiding encroachments on the shore road allowance. So with that, it's our recommendation that the application be approved. I would note that we have not received any public comments, but we did receive comments from agencies which are addressed in the report. One of those comments being comments from the town to the effect that all encroachments on the town shore road allowance shall be removed. So you'll see that's one of the conditions on the decision sheet. SVCA has also noted that a permit is required for the construction of the proposed dwellings, but they have no concerns. And as I identified earlier, Saugeen Ojibwe Nation also has no concerns. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chair, to see if there's any questions. Happy to try and answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Wellwood. I know that Derek Seaman is here on behalf of the applicant. Derek, would you like to speak? If you could just push the button on the.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the clients are very concerned, first of all, about getting some space for the septic system. The other big issue for them was maintaining some trees on the property. There are some trees that it might show on the grading plan here that are on the east side. So that's why the place is pushed kind of to the 5 yard side yard setback on the west side. So they're trying to maintain a few mature trees on the east side, and then also the driveway is a little wide, but they're trying to keep a tree that's in the middle kind of right off the existing garage. So this is probably the 4th or 5th version of the grading plan we've had an adjustment. So this is the final one, but that was a goal of theirs. So that's why we've kind of juggled the house around so many times to try to maintain that goal to save some mature trees. So that was kind of the reason why we had to push it a little closer to the lake. So that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any members of the public in the chambers who want to speak. Is there anybody online? There's nobody online. Now we'll hear from members of the committee. Does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? Member Martin?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm going to speak in favor of this variance. There's a number of reasons, of course, which the planner has summarized. Two of the main ones for me are that the land at the rear of the property is not going to be subject to any development, so there's no privacy issues regarding neighbors present or future, which will be affected as a result of the reduction of the rear setback. And most importantly, the Saugeen Conservation Authority endorses the application. There's no adverse impact environmentally upon its lands to the rear of the property, which are being encroached upon by the variance reducing the setback. For those reasons in particular, but for many of them summarized by the planner, I'm going to vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just echo Member Martin's comments. And I live just a few doors down from this property, actually, in Saugeen Beach Road, and it's not out of line at all with the some of the existing properties, for setbacks. It fits in nicely with the character of the neighborhood. Seeing some old cottages being torn down there, and lots of big, huge cottages being built. And so I'm sure this one's going to be just spectacular too. So for me, it's minor in nature. It fits in with the neighborhood fine. And so I really don't have any concerns. The only comment I want to make is about the trees. It's good to hear. The more trees maintained, the better in any development, really. And so it's I commend you and the owners for trying to maintain as many trees as you can. So it's a good application.
Any other members? Well, my own comments were related to trees too, and I appreciate what you said because the application had the possibility of keeping trees and the hope that trees would be maintained. So I like the way you brought it all around to how you've shifted things around a bit and done what you can do to have them have the best chance. I would really encourage you, by the way, to take a couple of before and after pictures of those trees. I think that would be a very good visual for a lot of activity in the community to show how it can be done. And I know some other people who are into preserving trees would really appreciate that kind of visual if you can snap a few pictures. I did want to, though, also just put in a reminder that about the removal of the encroachments, but there's also anything off the actual property, no vegetation should be affected outside of the property situation. And just a note for the town, the SVCA is mentioned in their submission for this application about the availability of mapping. And so hopefully, the town will take advantage of that. I had sent in a comment about that to town staff earlier today. Anyway, are there any other comments, concerns, questions? Okay, the recommendation from the planner is that the committee approve minor variance A-2023-041. Denemy has attached subject to the conditions of the decision sheet. And the conditions on the decision sheet are that any future development on the property conforms to the provisions of the zoning bylaw, that the decision applies only to the proposed development as indicated on Schedule A attached to and forming part of this decision. And the third condition is that all encroachments within the town's shore road allowance must be removed to the town's satisfaction. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Stack, seconded by Member Martin. Any further comments? All those in favor? That motion is carried. The variance is granted subject to the conditions as read. Our second application this evening is for.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Sure.
I'm going to declare conflict of interest on this one, and so I just leave, do I? I was in the car on the original. Thank you.
Okay, you can just step out. You
Oh.
just got here though.
I was on the call the whole time.
But you just got here. Now you do have to fill out a form. We need a written form, right? And so we'll make sure that you get one of those. Could you indicate the reason for your declaration? We'll make sure you do that before. But if you can just step back into the office behind. Thanks. You really did just get here. This application 6.2 on the agenda, sign variance application. It's from Roxanne Metcalf from related to Staybridge Suites. The address in Saugeen Shores is 2008-1208 Goderich Street. And I will look to, let's see, who's the planner on this one. I will look to Jay Posner to make a report. Thank you, Jay.
Yes, thank you. Just want to highlight a few things. This is a sign variance for installing two facial wall signs at the sort of the top edge of the new Staybridge hotel that's being constructed. And to clarify in the report, I say that they're proposing to install a facial wall sign on the south side. Well, I should have added and the north side of the building. So the two faces of the building that are perpendicular to the flow of traffic are where the signs are proposed. They're proposed in exactly the location as they are shown on those elevations and the attached drawings. The existing Holiday Inn has similar, top floor facial wall signs, and the request is to do the same here. The sign bylaw doesn't allow for signs grade above the first story. And but from in all other respects, the sign would comply with the provisions for the size of the sign, for how it's proposed to be lit, and in all other respects. And so the request is as shown there, and the additional context is provided by the applicant. And I think the applicant's online, Madam, if you're inviting additional comments.
Thank you. And I believe it's Francois. Did I say that right? Francois?
Yeah,
from
Francois
the
with
company. Would
with
you like,
Montreal.
would you like to
No.
address the committee? No?
Actually,
Okay.
there's not much I wanted to add. I was just curious if you guys had any questions on behalf of Montreal Neon and the customer at the end of the day, but if not, then that's fine. But I didn't have it, if you have no questions, I have no comments. So.
Thank you. Then I'll open it up to questions, concerns, comments from members of the committee. Well, I have a couple. I appreciate Jay's clarification that it's two signs, the south end and the north side of the building. I do, though, want to encourage when we get an application, the site drawing should include the actual building that's being discussed. This site plan went along with this one doesn't have this particular building noted on it because it's an older drawing. I also want to mention that even though it's not specifically mentioned in the report, along with the height of both signs, all other factors associated with the signs, the size, the lighting connected to the signs, and that sort of thing. I've been told that all the other requirements of the sign bylaw are being looked at and met. So, the lighting in particular was of concern to me, but I've been told that that's been addressed. I did also want to, though, just for the benefit of the applicant, there was a comment made that something along the lines of that the current bylaw causes prejudice to our client. I just want you to understand that in no way is our sign bylaw prejudicial in any way. It is what it is. And we have this process so that we can address people who want to ask for something that is not explicitly allowed during the sign bylaw. So there's no prejudice in anything to do with the sign bylaw. So I just wanted to make that clear. But seeing no other comments, Councillor Stack, go ahead.
Yeah, just a comment. Sorry. Just a comment on the sign bylaw. So maybe first a question for Jay. This is the same bylaw that we were dealing with a few weeks ago for the fence signs for the motel in town.
Yes, there's the same bylaw.
So I think I made this comment before. I have to acknowledge that if there's ever an opportunity to revise these sign bylaws, I understand it's there and there's no ill intent with the phrasing, but this is now the second bylaw. We've had many in a couple of weeks related to business signs, and particularly in this instance, it seems like there's an opportunity to tighten up the the bylaw, given that a business of this nature needs a sign bylaw, a variance to put up this fascia sign. It just seems like there's an opportunity in future to reconsider the drafting of the bylaw. Thanks.
I believe that the sign bylaw review is slated for 2024. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's actually in the business plan for this year, but it's going to be started this quarter, and we'll provide, hopefully a report to council soon on what any revisions might look like.
If I may just
Councillor.
add, then I just wanted to add a comment to this. Then in this case, I'm very involved with the Sign Association of Canada. So if ever the town would like to see some help or to look at other bylaws and what other cities are doing and how you could verbalize your bylaw, the Sign Association of Canada would gladly help you guys along the way. So just a little comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I know that they'll review lots of other information to find some good ideas that we can incorporate into ours. It is important, though, that we have some rules and regulations surrounding signage, so we won't just throw out everything. There's a good reason to have some rules. Anyway, is there any other? Member Martin.
Madam Chair, thank you. I'm going to be voting in favor of this variance, but I think it's important that I put my reasons on record because I was very vehement in opposition to the sign variance of a little while ago, of a couple of meetings ago. So why I believe that this one is in the public interest is this is going to be just above 6 floors. It's not going to be at eye level. It's not going to be distracting to the natural beauty of our community when you're driving along. In addition, it's the actual signage for the building. And we're dealing now with a 6th floor apartment or a rental hotel. And people have to find out where that is. And the fact that the sign is not for another third party, second party business. It's actually for this business and it's attached to the side of the building. And our issue here is that it's 6 floors up. It's where our current bylaw says that it can't be more than 1.2 meters above the first story of the building. So in my respectful view, the fact that this is now above the 6th floor is actually a positive thing, our variance, because it's still out of the eye level of traffic and other people and other buildings. Those are my reasons for supporting this.
Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt.
Well, just thank you. Member Martin, I just absolutely, totally concur. The one that we listened to a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, totally different situation. And I concur with what you're saying. I just think it's a good fit, and these motels 6 stories high need to market their business on their location, on their building, not second, signs that are owned by other parties. So anyways, I wasn't going to comment on this application, but I just want to concur. I think your comments are right on. Thank you.
This building will be the tallest building in Port Elgin, except for the water tower, I believe. So it's got visibility on its side in that regard too. Anyway, is there any other comments? You can flick your mic off there, Mike. The recommendation then is that the Committee of Adjustment approve sign variance application for the Staybridge Suites site located at 1208 Godrich Street, Saugeen Shores, subject to any conditions outlined on the decision sheet. And the decision sheet basically has 3 conditions. And it is that the sign is maintained in accordance with the sign bylaw, that the signs are permitted to be located more than 1.2 meters above the first story in accordance with the sign details located on Schedule A attached to this decision, and that any other signs to be installed comply with the sign bylaw. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Stack, seconded by Member Martin. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. The sign variance is granted. We have, we'll let Chad come back in.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be leaving the meeting now.
Okay. The only other thing on the agenda is item 7 is our next meeting date, which is noted as being potentially November the 20th, 2023, which will be confirmed. Do we have a sense that we have applications?
At this present time, we do not have any, but I will confirm the meeting in a few weeks.
Okay. So I'll ask now for an adjournment. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Member Beckett, seconded by Member Zimmerman. All those in favor? The meeting is adjourned at